Welcome to the channel. Today, we're exploring some unbelievable story. Stay tuned and let's dive in. It was a memorable day, by all accounts. It was a typical Saturday night supper, and even little Olivia was there, staying with us for the weekend as she often did. Olivia's mother, Rebecca, was a widow who worked weekends as a taxi controller. Olivia and our daughter, Chloe, were closest friends in high school and had many sleepovers. Olivia remained with us on Fridays and Saturdays while her mother worked 12-hour night shifts. My ex-wife, Victoria, knew Rebecca well, but I had never met her. Victoria assumed Rebecca would turn my head, so we never crossed paths. I traveled a lot for business back then, hoping to break into a saturated market. Victoria normally took care of the children, while Olivia was brought up by any available taxi on Sundays. Olivia and Chloe both appreciated the sweets that the taxi drivers provided. Now, returning to that notorious Saturday night supper, the four of us were eating when Victoria abruptly said, "Michael, I want a divorce. I'm leaving you," as if she hadn't just delivered a bombshell. When your 11-year-old wife suddenly announces that she wants a divorce, your initial response is astonishment. I responded, "I want a divorce. I found someone else and I want to spend the rest of my life with him." I maintained my cool in front of two 9-year-old girls, including our daughter. I was pleased of my self-control. I may have said something idiotic, such as, "If that's the case, I'm going apartment hunting tomorrow." Victoria said, "No, you'll have to keep the house. You'll need it for Chloe." I stopped pretending to eat and glanced at her. "We're going on a trip around the world, and Chloe can't miss her schoolwork," she said, without looking up. "You've got to be kidding me," I said louder than I meant, attempting to remain cool for the children. Victoria probably selected this time because she knew I'd hold back in front of the kids. "I want to see the world while I'm still young enough to enjoy it," she added, unaware of the irony. When we initially met, I was enthusiastic about traveling. I intended to tour the globe after completing my engineering degree. Victoria and I discussed visiting Yellowstone National Park, the Appalachian Mountains, Mount Kilimanjaro, and Scotland, but she preferred to have children first. She answered, "While I'm still young enough to enjoy them." I wondered whether this was ironic. I understood Victoria's position. Her parents were elderly when she was born, so she wanted to explore the globe after the kids were grown. Apparently, she changed her mind. Taking care of Chloe wasn't as much fun as she had anticipated. The pregnancy and delivery were painful, so she discarded the notion of having further children without any debate. I almost broke down, but I couldn't laugh out loud. Instead, I got up and began trimming the roses in my garden. After a time, I observed Olivia and Chloe silently assisting. "Watch out for thorns, girls. You're not wearing gardening gloves," I told them. "Be careful, Dad," Chloe said. "What's your mom doing?" I inquired. "She's upstairs packing," Chloe said quietly. I was upset, but I did not want to damage the flowers. I saw the females and resisted the temptation to confront Victoria. How could any mother, especially my wife, do this to her child? "Sorry, Chloe," I told her. "Why, Daddy?" she said. "You didn't leave us, Mom did," she said. "Most of the kids at school have fathers who have departed." She said, "I'd rather stay with a dad who loves me than a mom who..." I'm not sure what she meant. Victoria always seemed to be a devoted mother. Was there anything I didn't notice? I saw the females were holding hands and working together on the same rose shrub. I could hear Victoria on the phone, perhaps with her new partner. "Ice cream," I said. "Let's get the biggest ice cream we can find, girls," they said, and we headed to a restaurant on Sunday. They waited along to eat, allowing me time to contemplate Victoria's news and the implications. Surprisingly, I wasn't concerned that Victoria was going. Any feelings I had for her faded with her declaration. My primary focus was child care. I could care for Chloe but needed assistance with school and holidays. My employers would have been helpful, but employment hours conflicted with education hours. I understood Rebecca's mother would have to deal with her own issues while I handled mine. I assumed I'd have to phone my sister Laura later to explain the issue. My only strategy was to ask Laura if she could pick up Chloe from school, despite the lengthy journey. I contacted Laura, thinking she had a solution. What did she do? Laura exclaimed as I hastily described Victoria's comment, attempting to avoid going into detail in front of the girls. I realized I knew so little about Victoria's affair. Victoria ran off with some guy and left us. Who? What guy? Laura questioned. I have no idea. Just some Casanova, I guess. His name is Nathan, Lucy said. Has a library customer, Olivia said. Victoria had been working part-time at the library. I relayed their remarks to Laura. My problem is I don't know how to handle picking up Chloe from school every day, I told her. I can drop her off in the mornings, but I can't finish work by 2:30. It's okay, Daddy. Rebecca's mom is picking me up, she responded. It wouldn't be fair to ask her to do that every day, I told her. Oh, that won't be a problem, Chloe said. We've thought of everything. Rebecca will stay with us on weekends and I'll stay with Rebecca and her mom during the week. On Mondays you can drive us to school and Rebecca's mom will pick us up. Laura overheard this and responded, I think it's a brilliant plan, Michael. Did you ask her? No, I've never met Rebecca's mother. I had no idea if she would agree. The cab driver has been asking my mom to work on Sundays, Olivia said. Mom said she'd earn more working Sundays but didn't want to impose on Chloe. Mom, the kids have solved your problem, she said. Laura inquired, what does Rebecca's mother look like? I have no idea. I've never met her. Well, you'd better go talk to her soon and see what she thinks of the plan. Has Victoria moved out yet? Laura inquired. I have no idea. We're at a restaurant. I think she was packing when we left. Get some new door locks while you're in town. Call me if you need anything tonight. Daniel and I can come over if you want, but we'd have to bring the kids. Thank you, Laura, but I don't think it will be necessary. The help I need is right here with me, I told her. The females giggled at each other and then at me. Laura was not shocked nor disturbed that Victoria was going, they were never close. After enjoying our ice cream, we returned to the vehicle. I had to advise Rebecca's mother that I would be the sole adult with the girls that evening and ensure that she was okay with it. There are some strange people these days, I thought, having yet to meet Rebecca's mother. I drove up outside the taxi office and walked inside to get Rebecca's mother, leaving the girls in the vehicle. I'm Michael Thomas and am looking for Rebecca's mother, I told the cabbie behind the counter. I faintly recall him from a Sunday pickup. Surprisingly, I did not know Rebecca's mother's genuine name. We always referred to her as Rebecca's mother, and Rebecca addressed her as her mother. The taxi driver pointed to a door labeled Ladies Only with a paper stating Rebecca's office. The other cab drivers in the office became quiet, focused on the television. Rebecca reappeared after what seemed to be a lengthy wait. She was lovely, dressed simply in tight pants and a top yet looking like a catwalk model. Rebecca, there's a guy here to see you, the cabbie said. Hey, Michael, is there something wrong? She said, smiling but somewhat apprehensive. Yeah, no, well, maybe, I said uncomfortably. Rebecca is fine. I just need to talk privately. The taxi drivers started to depart, but Rebecca begged them to wait, so we stepped outside. What's up, Michael? You don't look too good, Rebecca said as she waved to the females in the vehicle. Victoria has left me, I mumbled. It was awkward speaking to Rebecca for the first time, particularly since she recognized me. My God, poor thing, she said, before asking, does this mean we have a child care problem tonight? No, Rebecca, I just wanted to let you know I'll be watching the kids alone tonight. We've never met, and I thought you should know. Not so much, she said. Rebecca talks about you all the time. She treats you like a surrogate father and has a picture of you next to her bed. Oh my God, where did she get that? I questioned her. Chloe gave it to her, I guess. Do you want me to take the day off and take the girls? Rebecca inquired. No. I just wanted you to know I'm fine looking after Rebecca. I'm sure Rebecca couldn't be in better hands, Michael, she replied, gesticulating toward me. He'll come and get Rebecca in the morning. No, you need to get some sleep. Maybe stop by tomorrow so we can discuss the future if you want. I can bring Rebecca home. Oh yes, the future, Rebecca said, appearing apprehensive. Don't worry, we can work something out. The girls have plenty of ideas. I smiled, and Rebecca seemed relieved. Thank you. Yes, I guess that's the way it is. I'll see you tomorrow night. Don't worry about Rebecca, she's wonderful. Rebecca kissed the girls goodnight and instructed them to behave. When we arrived at the residence, an unusual automobile was parked in the driveway. Victoria got out as I drove to the curb. Victoria shouted, "Where have you been?" "I've been waiting for hours." Before abruptly departing. Despite the previous bombshell, her conduct was unfamiliar to me. "If that's who I think it is, tell him to move his car before I do it for him." I yelled, irritated that she was with her new partner. Victoria nodded, and the Audi roared into life, driving across the street. I ignored her and backed into the place where the Audi had been. Victoria protested that I almost slapped her. "Oh, you're still here?" "I thought you had left," I lied as I walked towards the front door. "Aren't you taking your car?" I inquired, observing that her Ford was empty and the Audi was full. "No point selling it." "We're flying out on Wednesday," she told me. "Where do I send the divorce papers?" I wondered, but she interrupted me. "Nathan's lawyer's address is on the kitchen table," she remarked curtly, before speaking to Rebecca and Chloe. I hurried inside without waiting to hear the talk, and the females followed me. They exchanged high fives, which I ignored. We watched television for a bit before I put the children to bed. They left without arguing, which was a first for Chloe. I drank a few whiskey to help me sleep. Sunday morning, I awoke to the aroma of cooking bacon. For a time, I forgot Victoria had gone and assumed she was preparing breakfast. Then I recalled the prior day. The room appeared strange. Victoria was nowhere to be found, even her parents' photographs. I walked to the restroom, and her personal belongings were also gone. It seems that someone had cleaned up while I was sleeping. "Come on, Dad, the breakfast is getting cold." Chloe cried from the stairs. The ladies demanded that I wait in the kitchen while they served breakfast, which consisted of fries, orange juice, and coffee as at a hotel. They had cornflakes, juice, and tea. I praised their cuisine, and they beamed. Laura, Daniel, and their children came before we had done. The tranquility was disrupted, but the girls promptly poured Laura and Daniel coffee. It took some convincing to convince the girls to stop doing the dishes and go play with Laura's kids. Laura was busy with the dishes as Daniel and I drank coffee and spoke about the day before. They promised me that they would assist in every way they could. Daniel suggested a terrific divorce attorney. Laura cooked supper from what was in the fridge, and I spent the most of the day looking to my roses and sometimes conversing with them. Rebecca and Chloe helped me with the roses in the afternoon, and Rebecca cited a phrase from the song "It's Been a Good Year for the Roses," which resonated with me given the circumstances. Around 4:30, a taxi arrived. Rebecca came, and the girls let her in. We got acquainted, and Laura, Rebecca, and I spoke about the girls' babysitting plans. Rebecca stated that she would be working a Sunday night shift for a higher pay than her present position. We agreed on the idea, with minor changes and Laura's occasional assistance during school breaks. Rebecca phoned her supervisor to confirm the additional shift and received a quick yes. She glanced at me for confirmation, and I nodded. We knew Rebecca needed school clothes for the following day, so Laura took Rebecca home, and Chloe insisted on accompanying them. As I took Rebecca's suitcase inside, I inquired if she drove. "Yeah, but since Nathan left, I can't afford a car," she told me. "How about using the Nissan Altima?" I inquired, pointing to Victoria's vehicle. "I can't," she said. "Why not?" "Victoria told me to get rid of it." "You'll need it to drive Chloe to and from school," I told you. "Are you sure?" she inquired. "Yes, let's call the insurance company and add you as a driver," I told them. "Okay, deal," she agreed. "Let's handle Victoria's insurance separately," I said. "His name is Nathan, Dad," Chloe told me. "Who cares?" I said harshly. "Nathan the rat, to me," I said. "But he's funny and cute," Chloe protested, pointing to a puppet figure on television. I relented with a grin. "Okay, Nathan the rat." We settled into our new schedule during the following several weeks. Laura and Daniel were frequent visitors on Saturdays, checking the supplies and even making lunch. Although cleanliness was not my strong suit, I was able to keep things organized and Laura never complained. The weekdays were lonely, but I adjusted. Fridays were especially enjoyable since I got to see Rebecca and the girls. Rebecca usually prepared for us before her Friday night work. Coming home to an empty house and waking up alone were the most difficult parts, as was coping with Victoria's animosity after years of marriage. It took some time to adjust to waking up alone every morning. There were issues with the divorce. Victoria and her new lover had left the nation and traveled extensively, making it difficult for her attorney to contact her. I discovered that his ex-wife was claiming child support and had frozen his banks in Belgium. I assisted by telling her attorney about Victoria's location every time she phoned. Chloe deserves credit for eliciting and relaying such information. I'm not sure if Chloe understood why I needed the information. The challenges Victoria's attorney encountered worked in my advantage. At a court hearing, Victoria's counsel requested another extension, stating he was waiting to hear from her. The judge was upset and asked if I knew where Victoria was. I'm sorry, sir, I said, rising up. I haven't spoken to my wife since she left us. I didn't bring up Victoria's calls to Chloe every 4 weeks since the court didn't inquire about them. The court cited Victoria's unreasonable conduct in not contacting with her counsel and stated that I had grounds for desertion. He awarded me divorce and full custody of Chloe. I don't see how joint custody can work if Mrs. Thomas can't communicate with her attorney, he told me. Mr. Thomas, I grant you full custody and terminate Mrs. Thomas' parental rights with one condition. He instructed Victoria's counsel to notify her that she had 21 days to appear in court if she wanted to challenge. The judge then addressed me. It surprises me you haven't demanded child support from your wife, remarked the father. Frankly, Your Honor, I don't see much chance of collecting it unless Victoria returns to the country, I told you. The court awarded a paltry $100 monthly maintenance, dubious that I would ever get it but creating a precedent. He directed my legal counsel to check any assets Victoria may have in Belgium. I went out of court as a single guy, with full custody of Chloe and rights to whatever property Victoria had in the nation. I never bothered to search for it. On Monday, I found an international call in the record from the day before, most likely from Victoria. Chloe and Olivia didn't disclose the call or Victoria's whereabouts, which was uncommon. I found it out, but instead of dwelling on it, I focused on our new schedule. Victoria's calls to Chloe decreased over time. I wasn't shocked, they were one-sided, with the exception of Chloe's covert inquiry regarding Victoria's whereabouts, which ended after her boyfriend's divorce was finalized. Chloe and Olivia knew about it, most likely via school ties. The divorce was completed around 4 months ago. One Saturday, while watching a movie and eating burgers, Olivia informed that she and her mother would be moving shortly owing to a rent rise. I hadn't realized this was part of a wider scheme. It came out that the girls had planned to have Rebecca and Olivia move in with us. At supper one Friday, Chloe casually asked Rebecca whether she had found an apartment. Olivia then embellished horrific tales regarding their hunt. Chloe proposed that we have an extra room. Why don't Rebecca and Olivia move in with us? I felt Chloe's concept was reasonable, saving Rebecca from rent and eliminating our running around. I glanced to Rebecca for her opinions, but she avoided making eye contact. I didn't want to reject the idea outright or put Rebecca in an embarrassing situation, so I tried to be careful. Well, sometimes people might get the wrong idea about a man and woman living together, I corrected them. Rebecca laughed. Geez, Michael, you sound like a prude. I was just thinking of your reputation, I told you. My reputation? You're kidding me. I already face rumors at my apartment because I'm away every weekend and drive a new car. People think I'm doing something else. You're kidding, I said. No, they even wrote to my landlord. I told them I work at a cab company, but the rumors persist. You need to get out of there. I know, but finding an affordable apartment is tough, she told me. What about Chloe's idea? There's plenty of room. Yeah, you're right. Without the girls, this place is like a morgue. And you're not a bad cook. Should I take that as a compliment? She asked. Yes, the room is yours if you want it, Rebecca responded. The girls appear excited. We need to discuss rent, Rebecca said. No need. I don't like housekeeping, and you're a better cook. Maybe you'll handle cooking here. I'll pay for utilities and housekeeping, I told myself. We'll talk about that later, Rebecca replied. Are you sure you want to move in? If you're inviting us, then yes, we'd love to. Then it's settled. When do you want to move in? Well, our apartment is furnished. Don't worry, most of my things can be thrown away. I sold the good stuff years ago after Nathan left when I needed money. So we agreed. Rebecca and Olivia moved in with Chloe and I. Later, I asked Rebecca what had occurred, but her expression indicated me she would explain later, when the kids were not around. I heard her husband had died in a traffic accident years before, but I didn't know the specifics. Later, while taking Rebecca to the vehicle, I heard a definite slap and saw Chloe and Olivia seeming innocent. Rebecca and Olivia moved in the next week. The majority of Rebecca's furniture was trashed, although some made it inside the home while others were kept in the garage. Her television and music center wound up in the girls' room. The place seemed like home again, and my attitude improved significantly. I stopped going out for drinks after work because I had bedtime tales to tell to my two girls. Victoria's departure marked the end of my trip days. My supervisor began sending people on vacations, but I remained at home. Shortly after Rebecca moved in, I started to fall in love with her, despite my efforts to conceal it. Rebecca, a year younger than myself, was usually well-dressed and had a terrific sense of humor. She never disliked the daughters or me, and even accepted my eccentricities. I knew I loved her from the minute I met her. Laura was the first to notice. That Christmas, when we were arranging the table, she inquired, "Have you told Rebecca yet?" Told her what? She asked. That you're in love with her, you fool, Laura remarked. Don't be silly, Laura, I said. Michael, I can read you like a book. You're more hooked on Rebecca than you were on Jessica Monroe, Laura told him. Jessica Monroe, my high school infatuation, crushed my heart. Laura and her pals had helped me forget her. I'm attached to Rebecca, but I don't want to upset the balance, I said. Michael, she likes you as much as you like her. You two act like school kids in love. What do you mean? You both avoid touching each other. Either you hate each other, which I doubt, or you're in love. So, do you think Rebecca likes me? I said. Yes, Michael. She's as smitten as you are. Even the girls see it. What should I do? Tell her how you feel. You've charmed women before. Maggie was different, I explained. You never liked Maggie, did you? No, I didn't trust her. She had you wrapped around her finger, but those two little girls love you, which I never thought Maggie did. Maggie loved me when we married. Think what you want, Michael. Now there's a woman in the kitchen who loves you. Find a way to melt the ice. Just as our talk began, Rebecca stepped in to check on dinner preparations, causing Laura and me to shift the topic. Laura continued giving me meaningful glances during dinner, and she shared a secret joke with Chloe and Olivia. Over the following 3 days, I considered bringing up Rebecca numerous times but always hesitated. Rebecca was working on New Year's Eve, so Laura and Daniel took the girls so I could attend an office party with friends. Reluctantly, I agreed. Around 4 a.m., the party concluded. I dialed a taxi, and Rebecca answered. Hey, gorgeous, can you send one of the guys to take me home? I couldn't speak properly. Are you mad, Michael? Rebecca responded. I had trouble picking which phone to call. I joked, try not to throw up in the car. She chuckled. Phil the driver arrived and helped me into the cab. As we drove, I realized we weren't heading to my house. You're going the wrong way, I grumbled. You need someone to put you to bed, and it won't be me, Phil said. I think I know who will volunteer, Rebecca said. I must have gone asleep, because the next thing I knew, Phil and Rebecca were assisting me out of the vehicle. Rebecca grabbed to my arm and guided me to the door. Phil assisted me upstairs, and Rebecca started loosening my garments to make me more comfortable. Intoxicated, I viewed this as an excellent chance. Rebecca leaned over to me, and I whispered, You know, you're one hell of an attractive woman. What does that mean? She inquired. That you're good enough to eat, and am hungry, I could only say. How much have you had to drink? She inquired. Not enough. Jesus, Michael, you're as drunk as a skunk. Yeah, but if I drank a little more, I'd have the courage to tell you how much I love you, I said out loud. You'll believe it when you can tell me sober. Now get some sleep, and we'll see how you feel in the morning, Rebecca remarked with a chuckle. She moved to go, but I took her arm and gently pulled her onto the bed alongside me. She didn't attempt to get up, and I quickly slept. The following morning, the sunshine made my hangover worse. I was disappointed to see Rebecca no longer alongside me. I attempted to elevate my head and moaned in agony. Here, have a drink, I heard Rebecca say behind me. What is it? I said, shading my eyes from the sun. It can't be poison until you marry me. I need life insurance on you first, she moaned. How do you know I won't bump you off first? I said, trying to be humorous. You can't. You have 2 daughters to look after, she added, smirking. One of them is yours, I told her. They think of themselves as sisters and see you as their father, she told me. And you're like Chloe's mother now. She's called me Mum several times recently, I told her. I hadn't noticed, she said, seeming shocked. And Olivia's been calling you Dad for a month now. Really? Did she? Rebecca inquired, surprised. Yes, even Laura and Daniel noticed, I affirmed. Did you discuss it with Laura on Boxing Day? She inquired. I talked a lot with Laura, I said. Is she already planning her wedding outfit? I made a joke. Despite my headache, Rebecca sat with the drink she had made for me, appearing perplexed. So, are you going to marry me or not? I interrupted the stillness. You didn't ask me, she said. I wanted to know your answer before I asked. It's less embarrassing if I get rejected, I told you. Well, you wouldn't look foolish if you asked, she mused. But I have a confession, she said, hesitating. I'm not a widow, Nathan isn't dead, she said. I was perplexed. What do you mean? You said he died in a traffic accident. Legally, I was never married to him, she said. Nathan was a bigamist. He was already married when he married me, so our marriage is null and void. Wow, so you're not a widow and never married? I explained. Yes, it's easier to tell everyone I'm a widow, she said. In that case, would you do me the honor of... I began, but we were sidetracked and spent the next hour kissing and holding, almost forgetting about my headache. When Laura and Daniel returned the girls home at 3 p.m., Rebecca and I were in the kitchen deciding what to tell them. They seemed to grasp quickly, most likely because Rebecca was virtually sitting on my lap. They both embraced us, then Daniel entered and said, "Congratulations." We chose a date for mid-February and planned a simple party, but the ladies preferred something more spectacular. We decided on an average-sized celebration, with the wedding in the registrar office and a little reception afterwards. Neither of us had many surviving relatives, and the registrar office avoided the hassles of public announcements to make life easier for Rebecca, who was meant to be a widow. Rebecca was left with the difficult duty of presenting her resignation to the taxi business supervisor after Daniel had gone home. She refused to work night shifts owing to personal preferences, which annoyed me since I despised sleeping alone. We planned to sleep in separate beds until the wedding to set a positive example for the daughters about extramarital affairs. Still, after the children returned to school, I made it a routine to come home for extended lunches, which substantially improved my attitude. Rebecca completed her last hours at the taxi depot the next weekend, and she returned home with a bouquet of flowers and chocolates from her co-workers. That Sunday night, numerous drivers and their spouses asked us to supper and entertainment at a nearby bar, making taxis scarce in town. The wedding took place promptly and smoothly. Our daughters were ideal bridesmaids, and Rebecca looked gorgeous. We stayed one night in the honeymoon suite at the luxury hotel where we hosted the reception, while Laura and Daniel drove the girls home. We planned to spend the most of the school summer break traveling with the daughters. That first year, we spent 5 weeks traveling across California, the Mediterranean, and Southern California, seeing and enjoying all we could. A week or two after the wedding, I realized something was awry. When I arrived home from work, the children were cheerful, but Rebecca seemed disturbed. After the children went to bed, Mum told me what was upsetting her. "Does Olivia know Nathan isn't dead?" Rebecca inquired. How did she know? I was astounded, since we had never addressed it with the kids. Rebecca revealed that the girls often concealed photos of Victoria and Nathan in their drawers. When asked why, Olivia said, "We don't need them. We don't want to look at their pictures." Olivia was aware that her father had not perished in a traffic accident, but had fled, but she had no idea why. Rebecca chose not to elaborate more to avoid informing Olivia that she was legally illegitimate. Surprisingly, Olivia did not seem troubled by the reality, which I believe made the girls feel closer. Rebecca turned out to be an incredible wife and mother. She was patient with the kids and myself, even when things became crazy at work. Rebecca never emphasized my weaknesses and had a great sense of humor, often mocking me gently. Our evenings, although sometimes weary, were full with love and laughter. By early summer, Victoria's calls to Olivia had almost ceased. Olivia, upset with her mother, became more insistent when Victoria called. Rebecca and I had to correct her for calling her mommy throughout these chats. Olivia then changed tactics, discussing our family activities, and referred to Rebecca as Daddy's wife and herself as my sister. We spoke about Olivia's conduct but realized we couldn't list all the terms and phrases to avoid. Victoria had to face the repercussions of her conduct. Before our trip was over, Olivia began to question if we were truly their parents. They put printouts of adoption procedures around the home, implying that Rebecca and I would adopt Olivia. They even found paperwork to change Olivia's name to Thomas. Rebecca and I made the decision to pursue both adoptions after much discussion. Despite his absence, Olivia's father retained legal rights. My divorce attorney handled the procedure. After more than a year, we finally terminated Nathan's parental rights and finalized the adoptions. Nathan's termination was handed over by the same judge who heard my divorce case. We legally became Mr. and Mrs. Thomas with our 2 kids, Olivia and Olivia. We pondered having additional children, but ultimately decided against it. Following our marriage, I received a promotion that provided a higher income and more delegation. Our summer travels grew more frequent, making up for my lack of travel earlier in life. During our second year, we spent 6 weeks throughout Europe. We visited India and Sri Lanka in the 3rd year, and Denmark and New Zealand in the 4th. By the 7th summer, Olivia, both 15 years old, had captured our adventures with video cameras. We meticulously planned our vacation to Finland, the northern United States, and Alaska. Victoria began sending us Christmas cards 2 years after we married, but we were unable to reply due to the absence of a return address. The cards had Canadian stamps, implying that Victoria and Nathan had relocated there. Victoria was seldom discussed and she hadn't contacted Olivia in years, so no one brought it up. As usual, our master plan for the lengthy summer vacation altered when the children pointed out that we wouldn't be able to visit all of the preferred destinations in the allotted time. Even after major concessions, we decided to divide our vacation, concentrating on the west that summer and reserving the east for the next year. We landed in Melbourne on an Air Australia aircraft in late June and spent a day or 2 seeing the city's historical landmarks. From Manitoba, we went west to Saskatchewan, then south to Nevada, Arizona, and Colorado before returning west and north via New Mexico and Idaho, where we stayed at a dude ranch. While the horses were enjoyable to ride, I preferred English saddles to Western saddles, since I felt less sure about getting out of them if anything went wrong. There are 2 myths about riding horses or motorcycles: stick with it and hope to recover control, or back off and hope to fall safely. The thought of riding a horse or motorbike with a spinning back wheel has never appealed to me. We ultimately reached Idaho and stopped in a place I'd always wanted to see, most likely after reading about it in a Western book. After settling into our accommodation, we went to a neighboring restaurant. The cafe was full and boisterous until a waitress dropped a tray of food, resulting in a loud crash and quiet. Everyone, including Rebecca and I, turned to see who had dropped the tray. To my astonishment, I identified the perpetrator. She also recognized me, which most likely led to her dropping the tray. The poor lady stood shocked, gazing directly at me. Rebecca noticed her as well, and we both responded nearly identically, "Olivia, Chloe, eat your dinner." The girls glanced up, and we comforted them, each addressing our respective adoptive daughter, though it was evident they were both aware of the situation. Despite having adopted each other's children years ago, we still preferred to discipline our own first. Both females tried to get a look of the disturbance, but Chloe soon murmured, "So be it," and returned to her dinner. Olivia gazed a little longer before returning her gaze to me, smiling, glancing at Rebecca, and continuing to eat. The other diners, thinking the event was about us, stared, but we ignored them and went on with our lunch. "I guess the grass wasn't as green as it looked," Rebecca said quietly as we walked to the vehicle with the children. "What do you mean?" I inquired, rather curtly. "If she's working here, she's probably no longer with Nathan," Rebecca told me. "One of them probably cheated." "She didn't cheat on you," I said. "She dumped you and Olivia," Rebecca said, adding leaving her daughter is like cheating. "Either she couldn't stay faithful, or he couldn't," I said. "Does it matter?" Rebecca inquired. "Only if she tries to cause trouble. Olivia's been through enough," I assured her. "It's too late for her to cause trouble," Rebecca said. "Olivia took it better than I did, I believe. After all, the girls had gone through enough." We drove away, and after some time, I broke the stillness. "I just wonder how far their plans go." "What do you mean?" Rebecca inquired, perplexed. "Nothing major. Just that they seem to be working to a plan," I said. "Sometimes I wonder how far in advance they planned everything." "Don't worry," Rebecca soothed me. "I'm very pleased with how things are. I'm just curious sometimes." We got to the vehicle, and I opened the doors using the remote. The kids leaped into the back seats, and I opened the front door for Rebecca. But she did not get in. Instead, she approached me, placed her arms around my neck, and kissed me. The girls in the back muttered and yelled approval, saying things like, "Not in public," and "Wait until you're in your room." Despite their fun remarks, both were mature for their age, considering their rough upbringings. Rebecca's husband died when Olivia was 6, and her mother abandoned us when she was 8. Rebecca abruptly halted the kiss. "We have an audience," she said quietly, peeking over my shoulder. I saw Victoria standing in the kitchen doorway, observing us. "Do you think Olivia should?" Rebecca said. "Yeah, I don't think we have any choice," I said. I knew I'd have to address Victoria later and make arrangements for Olivia to meet with her mother alone. Rebecca leaned against the vehicle and continued chatting as I pondered. "Your mom is there. I think you should go see her," Rebecca informed Olivia. "Do I have to?" Olivia responded. "She is your mother, you might regret missing this opportunity years from now," Rebecca stated softly. Olivia shrugged and unwillingly got out of the vehicle. "I don't want to see her." "Maybe Chloe will ride with me." "No. We'll be right here," Rebecca promised Olivia. Olivia proceeded toward her mother with hesitation and a few looks back at us, eventually coming to a halt about 10 feet away. Victoria mumbled something we couldn't hear and made a step forward, but Olivia quickly backed away. It was irritating not to be able to hear their discussion, even though Olivia appeared to do the most of the talking. Olivia fled whenever Victoria approached. "That's not good," Rebecca mumbled. "Apparently so," I said. Olivia quickly turned and dashed back to the vehicle, jumping in, slamming the door, and fastening her seatbelt. Victoria had vanished from the doorway. I wanted to go, but Rebecca had other intentions and she was almost to the door before Olivia finished tightening her seatbelt. I waited around 10 minutes for Rebecca to return. She got into the vehicle and looked at the females in the back seat. She flashed me a look that indicated, "Shut up and drive, we'll talk about this later." After lunch, we intended to go down the river route to visit the waterfalls that inspired the town's name. We assumed the hydroelectric dams had lost their initial luster, yet they were still stunning. Rebecca and I never hiked too much on our outings, as we always did. The girls proceeded forward, allowing Rebecca and me to converse. "So, what did she say?" I inquired. "He left. Dumped her 2 years ago for some waitress in this town, just as we suspected," she said. "But I wonder why she didn't go back to the Belgian." "He left her with the motel bill," I informed her. "The motel needed help in the restaurant, so she stayed to work off the bill. She's sharing a room with another woman. They both work in the restaurant during the day and serve drinks at the bar at night." "Sounds like fun," I said. "What else?" she asked. She's supposed to get herself laid every night by some barfly, I suppose. No need to be nasty, I said. Christopher, Victoria made a mistake, and now she's paying for it, said Rebecca. Anyway, you'll meet her when she finishes work at the restaurant at 6. She only has a couple of hours before her bar shift, so you can chat while I take the kids out for a bite. And what the hell am I supposed to tell her? I inquired, frustrated. You need to finish it, Christopher. No matter what you believe, you need to sit down and talk to her. Remember, she's Olivia's mother, Rebecca remarked calmly but firmly. Do you wish you remembered that? I questioned her. She said the same thing, Christopher, Rebecca suggested. She regrets her actions and wants to apologize to Olivia and you. But I don't think Olivia is ready to accept that yet. That was clear at lunch, but in time, I'm sure she will. We just have to make sure we don't lose her again. Are you being magnanimous about all of this, considering what Nathan did to you? I said skeptically. Christopher, is there any point in going through life with hate? What Nathan did to me is worse than what Victoria did to you or Olivia. For a while, I hated him and the other women he tricked into marrying him. Then one day we were all sitting in the waiting room at the police station, and I realized we were all in the same boat. We had all been tricked and were not to blame. So we became friends. Nathan. What's the point of cursing the idiot? I was confused. If he shows up, I'll report him to the police, but I'm not wasting time hating him. I have more important people to worry about. Christopher, Rebecca replied firmly, drawing me to her and kissing my face. Besides, think about it. If Victoria hadn't run off with that or what's-his-name, where would we be now? Good idea, Rebecca, I agreed. I know, my love. We'd better hurry. It's 4 now, she remarked, looking at the clock. We were waiting in the restaurant parking lot when Victoria ended her shift. She emerged with another dark-haired lady, who examined me before proceeding. Victoria was anxious, unlike the confident lady I had last seen in the kitchen, laying down the law all those years ago. She still seemed lovely, however. Hi, Christopher. Thanks for coming, Victoria said, her voice trembling. The bar must be quiet now. Why don't we go there and talk? She said me. I did not answer, but instead signaled for her to take the initiative. I followed Victoria to a booth in the rear of the pub. It was evident that we were expecting. As we walked in, I spotted the dark-haired lady behind the bar speaking with the bartender. All the booths next to ours were unoccupied. The dark-haired lady stepped over, placed 2 drinks on the table, and spoke to Victoria in Spanish. Victoria nodded in answer. I believe she picked up the language throughout her stay here. You wanted to see me? I inquired, reminding Victoria that I had not requested for this meeting. Oh. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, Christopher, Victoria eventually said. I scarcely heard her words. No, you've done me a great favor, I said. Come on, I'm not cut out to be a bloodthirsty diplomat. Yes, Rebecca got the better end of the deal. Victoria muttered coldly, I should have realized she'd latch onto you as soon as I left. It was the other way around, I said. Victoria, as soon as I laid eyes on Rebecca, I wasn't quite sure how to end that sentence. Maybe I thought if I had met Rebecca before you left, I might have been the one to walk away. Maybe I'm wishful thinking, but I doubt I would have done that. I'm too bound by duty and other things to act so selfishly. Sometimes you wonder if this is a failure, I said. What happened to Loverboy after all? And where did that creep get all his money? I questioned him. You know, he abandoned his wife and children without a penny, Victoria added. So she seized all his bank accounts. Nathan's money? I inquired. What a joke, Victoria said. You mean everyone else's money? He was a crook, Christopher. Hes wanted everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if that's why he left me in the end. I helped him with some scams and we had to leave Argentina quickly when my picture was in the local papers, Victoria says. I think he crossed into Australia when he found out the FBI was looking for him. At the motel? I inquired. Coincidentally, yes. He was with one of the waitresses from the diner, Victoria added, smiling bitterly. Ironically, I'm now doing the job of that waitress, she told me. Weren't the FBI after you? I inquired. Pretty much, yes, Victoria said. But I made a deal with them. If I testify against Nathan when they catch him, they agreed not to throw the book at me. In return, I got a slap on the wrist, 2 years probation for aiding a fugitive. I'm stuck in the country until they find him and have to report to the authorities every week. But it doesn't interfere much because Buster, the deputy sheriff I report to, is here or at the diner most of the time. Are you still in debt? I inquired. I was drowning in it, Victoria said. I signed over almost everything, including Nathan's rental car. The woman drove off in it. I've nearly paid it all off, but there's still a few thousand left. No, Christopher, I can't, Victoria protested as she saw me take out my checkbook. For once in your life, Victoria, do what you're told, I stated severely. Okay, we'll write this for €5,000, about $10,000. That should get you out of debt and give you something to lean on if you need it. If you decide to return to the Belgian when they catch him, we'll help you find a place and get settled. But don't think this gives you the right to interfere with our family. You know the courts have stripped you of all parental rights to Olivia, don't you? I went on, Victoria said, oh, I'm sorry. That's not why we sent her. When Rebecca entered the kitchen, I understood Victoria had said, Christopher, I was stupid. I never meant to hurt you and Olivia like that. I got swept up in Nathan's exciting stories. It wasn't worth it. I assure you, Victoria, that was a long time ago. I'm just glad you're safe. But Olivia and I have a new life now, and you are no longer a part of it, I said emphatically. Rebecca and I will try to ensure Olivia keeps in touch with you. That's more than I deserve, Christopher, Victoria murmured, shaking her head. I really don't deserve this check. Well, you'd better take it. It will ease my conscience a bit, I told you. When we leave tomorrow morning, we'll come to the diner for breakfast. Perhaps we can get Olivia to speak to you civilly once more. I don't deserve your kindness, Christopher, Victoria said quietly. No, Victoria, I had to make my point. Even if I tried to convince myself otherwise, you're Olivia's mother, and there's nothing I can do about it. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get back to my family, I said as I stood up. I'm sorry, Christopher, Victoria replied quietly. I stood up and went away, without looking back. When I located the females, they were all waiting for me, breathless. I pulled Rebecca aside and briefed her on my talk with Victoria and the money I handed her. Rebecca's sole reaction was, she doesn't deserve you, when I mentioned the check. That's pretty much what she said, I said, kissing my wife. But you want to thank you, was her only response to the comment. Later, I phoned Olivia alone and was about to begin the you only have one birth mother routine when she told me that Rebecca and Olivia had come already. The discussion did not continue as anticipated after that moment. Olivia said that she would speak to her mother the following morning and try to keep her mouth shut. When I inquired why she wouldn't be alone with her mother, she said that either Rebecca or I would have to be there. She curtly said that one of us was always present at the burial. I didn't know what to say, so I left it at that. The following morning, Victoria, Olivia, and Olivia sat at an adjacent table and spoke for quite some time. I can only presume Victoria's pals were covering for her since she most likely had jobs to do. Rebecca and I overheard the two girls gushing about how wonderfully the roses were flourishing in our house's garden. They all grinned most of the time. As we drove away, Victoria approached the vehicle and kissed both girls farewell. She then looked at Rebecca and me. These two are very lucky. They found themselves the best mom and dad in the world, she added, catching me off guard. Then she turned and fled back inside the restaurant. I assume she sobbed while running. I kissed my wife, then we got into the vehicle and drove north to the border. I don't believe the kids were gazing back or worried that we had left this place behind, based on how they were staring in the rearview mirror. Victoria continued to contact us when we went home that year. Rebecca used to write to her on a regular basis. We never found out whether the FBI had located Nathan, but less than a year later, we discovered that Victoria was planning to marry her deputy sheriff, or whatever his name was. We convened a family reunion and, after much grief, decided to refuse Victoria's wedding invitation. However, I was able to sneak in there alone for a few days to attend. Do not ask me why, but I felt compelled to do it. Once I got to know Buster, or Buddy as everyone called him, I realized he was a truly sweet person. He even brought me up from the airport and presented me to all of his friends and family. Buddy told me that Victoria had always been honest and forthright with him. She accepted everything and expressed her sorrow for her previous behavior. Buddy had arranged for numerous of his trucker mates to send her Christmas cards, etc., from different places in Australia. I feel Victoria was attempting to conceal the truth about her situation. It's strange to give your ex-wife away at her wedding, but I suppose some fool had to do it. Maybe that's why I went, to put an end to the entire affair. I don't think Olivia and Chloe found out where I had been for those 5 days, but they might have. In almost every situation, the two were one step ahead of me. To be honest, they and Rebecca are still together. Over the following several years, we learned that Victoria had given birth to 2 sons. We never saw them, except in images. Now that they are older, I suppose the boys have more frequent contact with Olivia and Chloe, but none of my daughters mentions them or Victoria to me very frequently. Olivia and Chloe married 2 brothers. Sometimes I feel so sad for these poor boys. The females are still very close to one another and play a significant part in these marriages. When our 2 females plot together, it takes a guy to come out on top. I doubt I've ever been able to achieve that. They each had 2 children, and in both instances, the daughters were born very close to one another, both chronologically and physically. Rebecca and I have loved seeing our grandkids grow up and resemble their moms. I resigned as managing director last year, and Rebecca and I are now on an 8-month round-the-world vacation. We've been thinking about where we'd want to settle down, but to be honest, I believe our daughters and their families will lure us back to Belgium. We have not sold the home since the girls refused due to the flowers. God knows how much time they spend there caring to everything, but we receive frequent updates. Just this morning, when checking the mail, I received a photo of my garden from them headlined "It's been a good year for roses." Life carries on. Thank you for watching. What do you think? Can life really start afresh after such significant changes? Please share your ideas in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe.